Phantom, how's it going? Today we're going to be reviewing the series American Vampire, written by Scott Snyder and art by Rafael Albuquerque. If you are a fan of vampires, nasty things that go bump in the night, and not that Twilighty, watered down stuff, the series you're going to want to check out. American Vampire centers around the character of Pearl Jones. Now, Pearl Jones is an actress in the early 1900s, and at the beginning of the story, she's just come to California to kind of find her big break. Like a lot of people back then, they're trying to make it into the pictures. Unfortunately for Pearl, she goes to an audition that goes completely wrong because the audition is filled with vampires. Things go horrible for her, she's bitten, she's basically tossed aside, and she is left for dead. Really sad stuff at the beginning of this story. It is not a very happy story, I'm telling you right now. At the beginning of this, you're probably going to be going, it's really dark, and it gets darker as the story goes on. Fortunately, or unfortunately, depends on how you look at this, she is discovered by this other vampire named Skinner Sweet. Now, Skinner Sweet, to put it lightly, is a bit of a bastard. He is not a good person. He's not somebody you want to hang around with. But one advantage that Skinner has over the other vampires is that he is a brand new species called the American Vampire. And the American Vampire in this series has certain weaknesses, he has certain more powers and things like that that are completely different than the European Carpathian Vampire. Something that's also interesting to note about the first arc of this story is that the backup issues were actually written by Stephen King. Yes, the Stephen King, the horror writer extraordinaire. And the backup issues are actually set in the Wild West, and it gives you the background story of Skinner Sweet, the bastard male protagonist of this story. I think what I enjoy the most about this series is the fact that Scott Snyder is able to weave huge events in American history into kind of these vampire conspiracy theories and how vampires played a larger role than what we know. For example, most recently, the space race. The space race is a topic that he's been touching on in American Vampire, and it's really interesting stuff. I know some people don't care for the more recent issues. I have my problems with them. We'll get into that a little bit later. But it is really fascinating how Scott Snyder uses the two protagonists in the story because they don't age, and it starts in the early 1900s. You see them progress through different eras in American history. So you see them go through like the Gold Rush, World War II, which once you get to the World War II story arc, I think that is by far the highlight of this series. Just the World War II story arc is just... The art here is done by Rafael Albuquerque, and I gotta say, the art, not bad, really solid stuff. It's nothing that I've seen that's going to blow me completely away, but I really do enjoy the guy's style. I've heard some complaints about it, such as the fact that there's a lot of panels without any backgrounds and things like that. I get that. It's a stylistic choice. There are other artists that have that same choice, such as Jay Lee, who for some reason I think he just doesn't see backgrounds at all. But I do love Rafael Albuquerque's stuff that he does here. He's very strong in his action scenes. He's very strong in his emotional moments. He hits all the highs, he hits all the lows. Very, very, very solid artist. I like his stuff. And I like the fact that once you start reading the early issues, if you pay attention, he progresses a lot as an artist throughout the series. You're going to notice that at the beginning he's a little bit more detailed than he is later on, because later on in the series he's using more minimal line work, he's using his colors a little bit more sparingly. It's very, very cool stuff. I love the guy's work, and I think you will too if you're a fan of, like I said, Jay Lee. If you were to ask me, hey, is there anything wrong with this series that you don't like or that you don't care for, it's that the most recent story arcs have not been the strongest. In fact, I kind of think they've been the weakest, and I can understand why. I'm not saying this is the case, by the way. I don't have any insider information or anything like that. I'm making an assumption. Rafael Albuquerque and Scott Snyder are both super busy guys. They are both working on other projects. So I can understand why American Vampire is not necessarily taking a back seat to the other projects, but for me, the story quality and some of the art has dipped a little bit from some of the earlier stuff. And I get that, it happens. Artists and writers get super busy. That's how they make a living. You cannot make a living these days on just one comic book. Sad reality. Except, with the rare occasion of like a Grant Morrison or something like that. But for the most part, most writers and artists cannot make a living just on one book. It's the reality we live in, and I think American Vampire, unfortunately, kind of pays the price for that in the most recent story arc. Overall, if you're looking for a great vampire series that touches on American history and you want something that's a little bit different, more than the Twilighty, watered down Vampire Diaries type thing that's out there right now, you want something with more bite, more, strength in it, American Vampire is definitely the series for you. Check it out. I really do love this series. It was one of the first series that I picked up when I was first coming back into comics from taking a hiatus a few years ago, and I really have a special place in my heart for it. I think you guys will enjoy it. Solid writing, solid art. Check it out. If this is your first time checking out my channel, I do weekly reviews of comic books, hardcovers, collected editions, and things like that, like the one you saw. Follow me on Facebook and Twitter. That is the best way to get a hold of me. I'm going to put that link in the description below. If you have read American Vampire, who's your favorite character in the story? Let me know in the comments section below. Love you guys.